Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. On today's video I thought I'd do a bit of a quick kind of review of my full planner collection, so all the planner covers that I currently own, a quick show of kind of all the different planners that I've used over the years, and just kind of talk through pros and cons, why I have them, why I don't, etc. Yeah, just a quick little video really to have a bit of a nosy. If you can't already work out, I'm going to start with filofax. So let's make a bit of room. So the main filofax that is my favourite in terms of style is the original. So I have 3 originals, an A5 and 2 personals. I did have another original which was in nude, which I sold recently just because I don't use filofax too much anymore. I kind of have one personal size in rotation and then that's it really, but I'll come on to that. My A5, I'm not going to kind of flip through this in any kind of detail because this is basically just a reference binder for everything kind of home and things like that. So if I need to kind of grab a bit of information, I know that it's all kind of kept in here. So I don't use A5 generally as a size. I find it too big for my planning. Obviously the cousin is a kind of exclusion to that, but yeah, for day-to-day planning, the A5 is too big. However, for things like reference and holding information that you're going to need for long periods of time, A5 filofax perfect. Obviously, it fits A4 pages folded in 2, so I have lots of kind of the plastic wallets and also card pockets that I've made myself just to keep loads of papers and things. Yeah, perfect. In terms of the other originals I have, so I have a patent fuchsia and this is the burnt orange. As you can see, the patent fuchsia is looking a bit rough. I've had this for years. It's kind of cracking. Even though it's been cleaned, it's kind of gone a bit funny. Yeah, but I love it. It's probably one of the first filofaxes I had. As you can see, it's very old. These are my inserts from 2015, so yeah, quite old when my planning was a bit rough and ready. But yeah, so this, as you can see, is pretty much just to keep for my old inserts. I don't even really need the inserts, but I feel attached to them, and I feel like at some point I'm probably gonna want to do like a video going back through very old layouts to see how I used to plan or something like that. So yeah, I feel like I can't really let go of them. And then this is the burnt orange. Absolutely love this color, love this planner. I kind of regret not using it anymore, but then I bought a couple of other planners which I'm going to show you next that kind of superseded this one. I can't see myself getting rid of it just because it is so lovely and the color is beautiful, but again, it now just houses old inserts. These were great inserts, by the way, just so stationary. I miss her. I think part of the reason I stopped planning in a personal size, because I did, as you can see, I used to plan for quite a long time in a personal. She stopped doing inserts, and I think that probably contributed to it big time, because I couldn't just find any inserts that I loved just quite as much as those. Next I have my Malden. So I wanted a Malden for so long. I don't think the colour is kind of picking up great on the camera today for some reason, but yeah, this is the beautiful brown one. It's definitely a lot more kind of ready in real life. Yeah, I wanted a Malden for years. I absolutely love the style, love the look of it. I then finally got one, and I wouldn't say I was disappointed, but it wasn't. And you know, if you look at the filofaxy Facebook group, you'll see lots of complaints about people saying, you know, the leather just isn't what it was, the quality just isn't there. You can hear the interfacing in the middle of this, which for me kind of takes away from the quality. I think that's why I love the originals, because they're so simple, they can't not be good quality, I guess, if that makes sense. But yeah, so I bought this when it was on offer. I finally kind of succumbed, and now it houses all my kind of spare inserts that I just don't use, because I don't really use kind of personal size for a huge amount anymore, and some dividers. Again, I wanted a Malden for so long, I can't bear to get rid of it, but yeah, it's a little bit kind of unloved. Finally is my yellow Finsbury. This was re-released I think last year, and you know, this is what I was saying around, I would still be using the burnt orange if it wasn't for things taking my fancy like this and then like this. I have a blog post around how this is set up. I'm not going to do kind of too much flicking through because there's kind of a lot of personal info in here, but this is basically a bit of a, I guess, mini reference. So kind of the documentation and things like that are in the A5, and this is more kind of reference that I'll need for longer than a year, so I don't want to put it in my cousin or my weeks because I'll keep coming back to it. So this is more kind of a permanent home. So, you know, things around kind of suppliers for the shop or settings for the silhouette machine, things like that I'll need to come back to, bits around kind of finances and logging, and there's a perpetual calendar in here for things like birthdays and anniversaries, so I've got kind of a base location for them. They're all housed in here. In terms of the planner itself, I love the setup. There's lots of pockets in the front, there's the zip here, and it's a full-size zip pocket, which you don't get in the Malden. In the Malden it's just this kind of small one. So in terms of, you know, the planner and the setup, I do love it and I love the colour, but it doesn't lay flat, and this for me is a bit of a killer, and it's the only reason why I regret this planner. Again, it's another reason why I love the original. If I was going to recommend a filofax to anybody, it would be the original all day long. Yes, you don't get a huge amount of pockets. That is kind of one of the complaints that some people have, but it lays flat. It's really easy to get on with. It's really high quality, you know, particularly if you get one of these smooth ones. You know, I've had this probably 7 years and it still looks perfect. Whereas this, it's just a little bit trickier to get on with. And if I was using this kind of on a day-to-day basis, it would annoy me. And actually, I didn't talk about the lay flat in the Malden, which is not, yeah, it's not quite as bad. It is a little bit easier because it's kind of the soft leather, but it's still not ideal. A6 size is something that I have kind of played with a few times. So in 2020 I bought an Avec and basically kind of really ended up just using it to work out the sticker sizes so I could launch kits in an A6 size. I then tried it again in 2021. This is the day 3 version, and this was for shop planning. So this just had everything to do with, as you can see, didn't last very long. This just had everything to do with kind of shop planning and social media and new releases and things like that. This, I think I ended up buying one last year for work. This actually worked out quite well in terms of for work. So I had kind of my monthly plan at the start with kind of key bits of information like holidays or launches, things like that, and then all of the notes pages were just kind of basically my weekly bullet journaling spreads. I do bullet journal for work. I find it's the best way for me, and this size works really well because I don't necessarily have reams and reams and reams of notes, but I'm also kind of going to and from meetings, so I don't always want an A5 size. I kind of go up and down in terms of what size planner I use for work, but for what I was doing, this size worked perfectly. I have also tried the weekly supplement. This was a very short-lived, yeah, as you can see, I have barely used it. This was kind of supposed to be a bit of an EDC before I started carrying an actual kind of full planner, and yeah, it didn't work for me. It was too narrow. I didn't need all this space. Yeah, it just didn't work. A6 is something that it's too small for me for kind of it's too small for me for kind of scrapbooking and things like that, you know, what I use my cousin for, but then it's too big, particularly kind of if you're going daily pages or day 3 for my kind of on the go planner. And also, you know, you'd have to add a lot to it in terms of what I need an on the go planner for, because I also use it as a purse and there's no pockets, so then I have to get a cover for it, which then the Hobonichi covers do add quite a lot of bulk. So yeah, this has been a failed experiment a few times, but I'm glad I have tried it. Next up, we have all Hobonichi weeks. As you can see, I have a lot of them. This planner is the one planner that I've been in consistently since the first year I found Hobonichi in 2018 and now in 2023. This, I think I've shown kind of a quick view of this before in a previous video. yeah, I really kind of struggle to find the best way to plan in these. This was an old work planner. This did work really well for work, but in terms of kind of my day-to-day use, it was very up and down. Sometimes I loved it, sometimes I hated it. Some years I think I used it as a like health and fitness planner. Yeah, I really struggle to kind of find what this was best used for. It's only really been kind of in the last year or so that I've really kind of found my way with it, and that is kind of as a leave on my desk catch-all kind of planner that is kind of my brain. I've kind of moved away from planning in my Cousin, which I'll show you next, and kind of do it more in here, and that's the same for this year, although I have been experimenting with some bullet journaling this year, which I'm sure you'll have seen in my videos. But yeah, this, as you can see, you know, despite the fact that I kind of went up and down with usage of it, I always wanted to have one. It was always just something that felt, it would have felt odd not to buy, because it's so small and so cheap and so flexible. So, you know, the fact that I have been able to use it for so many different ways. You know, at one point I think it might have been this year, this was also my purse, so I kept like bank cards and things in here, and that was a good size. It just didn't fit in all of my handbags. You know, being able to use it as health and fitness log, gratitude journal, like regular planner, sticker planning, it's just so malleable, and it's probably the most flexible multi-purpose planner I think I've ever used, in terms of just being able to set it up however you want. Particularly something that you can set up without necessarily having to draw loads of things. You know, it's already set up as a planner, you can just adapt how you use it really easily. So yeah, I will always continue to buy a week's, I think, even if I don't know immediately what I want to use it for, just because I know that it can be used in so many ways. And now we're on to the Hanami Cousins, which are so big they are not fitting in the small space that I've got. This is my first year of having a Cousin. This was a cheap cover that I found on AliExpress because I didn't really want to, and I still haven't actually ever bought one of the regular Hanami Cousin covers. I just find them quite expensive for what they are, in comparison to, you know, when we're talking about leather covers and filofaxes and things like that. They just seem quite expensive for the materials used. So yeah, first year I just had one of these, and yeah, it was definitely an instant fall in love with the Cousin. I love planning in it. I think it's more than enough space than, you know, I potentially need, but it allowed me to do some really creative planning. It then gave me all the daily pages, which initially I didn't use loads of, but over time I really kind of found my groove with the daily pages, in terms of, you know, how to kind of use them as collection pages almost. So I have used them as actual, you know, planning pages in the past, but not consistently, because I don't always need a full A5 page, particularly if I'm at work. But on the days that I'm not, they will generally, a good chunk of them will get used up for other things. So, you know, random planning, sticker ideas, planner ideas for the following year, birthday present info, loads of stuff like that. Just, the pages are perfect for it. And again, you know, this is another planner where you can just adapt it to anything really. I have used the weekly pages before for planning out things, so I can't remember where the spread is, but I remember I kind of split up my flat into one each column, so like bedroom, living room, kitchen, and then just made a list of all the things I need to do in that area. So you don't even have to use the weekly pages as weekly pages, and the daily pages can just be anything. And, you know, using the yearly overview as an index, you can find all of these pages really easily. Last year was the only year that I didn't use a Cousin. I used a take a note, which I will show you in a bit, and I really missed it. I missed the space. Although I don't necessarily need the weekly pages to plan in anymore, I don't have as much kind of things to do outside of work, because I have kind of pulled back a little bit on the shop and content, and kind of directed it more to my day off, which is a Monday. So I have very busy Mondays, and then the rest of the week is pretty quiet in terms of kind of actual tasks outside of work. So yeah, I don't necessarily need the weekly pages, but the daily pages, just having a space to kind of capture all of my notes and all my plans. You know, when I'm doing a YouTube session in terms of ideas. Same with Instagram, just knowing that there's one book for all of those notes, rather than trying to find where they're kept or which scrappy bit of paper. I know that I only have the Cousin for everything. I couldn't use the Take a Note for that. That was purely scrapbooking. So last year I have no idea where all of those things were in terms of ideas and planning, but every other year that I've had the Cousin, I know that I've had it to look back on and, you know, reference, and there's just been one thing sat on my bookshelf or sat in my planner cart, and it's all there. This cover, by the way, is from One Star Leather Goods. I absolutely love this. I've had this a good few years now, and it's patinaing really nicely, but it's also holding up really well. And yeah, obviously very similar in style to the original filofax, which is probably why I like it. Next up, let's talk Traveller's Notebooks. So this is my passport, which you will have seen before on this channel. It's been my purse on and off for probably the past year or so, and I only stopped using it when I did my bullet journal experiment. But if you have been watching those videos and you saw my One Book July video, you will know that when that bullet journal is finished, which it will probably be in about 6 or 8 weeks, I will be going back into this with a few tweaks to the setup. So I will probably film another setup video when that's done. This is my standard. So I had my eye on the olive one when it was released, and I had bought the olive zipper case. I was then bought this colour for my birthday, which on reflection I much prefer, because now I have a lovely matching pair. This isn't in use much yet. I've kind of got a few inserts in here that I do a bit of kind of random journaling in, kind of when I just feel like doing something a bit creative. But next year this will be the home of my scrapbooking and memory keeping. So I'm not using the Cousin for that next year. There will be more to come. There'll be a 2024 planner thoughts video coming soon, but yeah, this will be basically for creativity and scrapbooking and things like that. And I think it will go a lot better, because one thing with the Cousin, 6 months in, it's getting too thick. I'm really struggling to write in the pages, whereas if I use inserts in here, they won't last a huge amount of time. They won't get super chunky that I can't write in it, but then I'll just be able to take out the insert and put in a new one. So I think that should work out a lot better. We're now finally on to the last 2 planners in my collection. Like I say, I don't really throw away planners, particularly if I've used them, or kind of used them in a meaningful way. They do get kept, because I do like to, you know, build up this collection and have them to flick through. This is the Take a Note, which I'm not really going to do too much flicking through, purely because I did use it as more of a scrapbook last year, so there's lots of pictures and things, but this gives you a bit of an idea around kind of the layout if you haven't seen it already. It is a week on 4 pages, and you know, I did try to use a bit of it for kind of the note taking, the commonplacing that I would have normally done in my Cousin, but it didn't quite work for me, particularly as, you know, I might have a note there and then do a bit of kind of memory keeping for something. I didn't like it. This is a novelty. So this was a cover I got. I'll have to find where this came from, and I'll drop a link to kind of everything in the description that I can find or remember. But I got this custom made for the novelty. I'd seen lots about it a couple of years ago, and finally decided to try a few different sizes. There definitely is a blog post somewhere from when I bought this and kind of set it up and did kind of a comparison. I actually really liked this planner, and I liked the layout. I liked planning in it. Kits worked really well, and I found that I could do some quite nice looking weeks in it. I just, in comparison to the weeks, it kind of, I liked it, but I didn't need the extra space versus the weeks. You know, if I can plan on this, I can pretty much plan the same. You know, as you can see, I wasn't packing the pages full. I was making them look nice and pretty, and you know, using sticker kits, but in terms of the actual space, I didn't really need it so much. And yeah, I just reverted back to my weeks and stayed in that, to be honest. So yeah, it was a nice little experiment. I absolutely love these planners. I recommend having a look into them if you're looking for, you know, something a little bit different. This setup is brilliant. You've got your kind of timed bits there for appointments, but then you've got kind of free space here and free space here. And I found that dividing this up like this worked really well. You know, if you've seen my channel, you will see that I like to kind of compartmentalize my life and compartmentalize kind of plans and tasks and things like that, and this allows me to do that. So for that, I did really love it. I just kind of, yeah, got back into my weeks really. But do recommend, if you want kind of a weekly layout with a little bit more flexibility, this is definitely one to look at. They do have a stupid amount of planners available though. Have a look around for some blog posts, because I found one that was really useful for kind of explaining all the different ones and the different sizes, because yeah, it gets very confusing. But definitely take a look if you are looking for an alternative. And that is it in terms of all of the planners in my current collection. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was interesting. I always love nosying at people's planners. If you do have any questions around kind of anything that I've used, or anything that I haven't mentioned that you thought I may have used, or, you know, a surprise that I haven't tried it, yeah, drop me a comment and I'll be more than happy to chat to you. But if you haven't already, please like and subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in the next video. Bye.